Welcome back to my channel. I'm James, and today we're going to dive into a topic that really affects every single one of us. And this is something I've gotten asked thousands of times over the years. And it's disc issues, playback issues when you go to play a disc, and cleaning them. There's a lot of things that are tied together, and there's a lot of tips and hints and tricks that I'm going to share in this video and go into with all of you to show you and give you ideas of ways to kind of prevent a lot of this and to avoid a lot of the issues that you sometimes run into when you collect physical media or you buy Blu-rays, DVDs, 4K Ultra HD discs. And it's a common thing that's been going on for many years. And recently I've kind of noticed over the last several years it's actually kind of gotten slightly worse. So we're going to dive into, and I'm going to share all these little hidden things, some money-saving tips, some things that'll help you out, and then also show you the best possible way to clean your discs, how to do it correctly without damaging them, and dive into that information with all of you. So if you enjoy this content, make sure to give this video a like and a thumbs up, and then go down there and hit that subscribe button and the bell notification. That way you never miss out on any of the special or unique content here on my YouTube channel. Now, a common thing that goes on with a lot of releases lately is this film that comes on the cases and then ends up being on the actual discs themselves. And it might be a little bit hard for you to see. I'm going to try to use the camera, but you should be able to see there's like a film over the case. And anybody that's bought Blu-rays, DVDs, 4Ks, you run into this on your cases and then on your discs. So on the discs, you'll see here, there's like a film, and maybe the camera will pick it up and maybe it won't, but you should be able to see slightly a film around the edges there. If I'm using the light behind my camera, you should be able to see there's a film that runs all the way around it. Now, this is a common thing that runs into with a lot of releases nowadays, and there's a multitude of reasons for why this is. A lot of people assume they're spraying something on here for the viruses or things like that, and it actually has to do with just the plastic and the way that it's made and how these are stored and shipped. When plastic goes between hot to cold weather and how it's shipped and stored, the plastic kind of like basically breathes and kind of releases this little bit of a film on it, which then gets on your discs, and the discs sometimes come with it completely covered really bad, other than just this one that has it kind of around the outside. And I'm not trying to pick on dead heat here. It's just that I just happened to open this one and it's on here, and I noticed it's on a lot of releases recently. So because this one just came out, I thought we'd talk about this one and some of the other ones as well. But if you've looked at your cases, I'm sure you've noticed it by now. You get this film, and then it's kind of like a greasy substance almost on it, and it's hard to get off, let alone you don't want to scratch your discs. Well, this is where I'm going to share some tips and tricks with you that I've learned over the years here of collecting for over 35 years, that I've learned some things damaged it and some things actually helped it. Well, on the disc, the first thing is I used to use like a t-shirt. I would use like a t-shirt that I thought was clean and kind of wipe it on it, and it'd end up over time, whether it was a DVD, which was prone to getting scratched very easily, or a Blu-ray or a 4K, which has that coating on it, which is less likely, but it will still get hairline scratches through it, and it never really cleared away the actual film that's on it. And to show you it's a common thing on Blu-rays as well, most Blu-ray releases, if you look, it has the same film inside. You can see it inside the cases here, and it runs all along the discs and everything. And it's the same thing, whether it's a Blu-ray case, a DVD case, or a 4K case. It's common through all types of releases that come out. Well, I've kind of tried everything over the years, and I found out after damaging discs over the years and having discs that ended up with scratches, and the more you clean the disc, so over time, depending on whether you live in a moist area or you live in a drier climate, that will affect how much your discs kind of breathe or get that substance on them more often or less often. So a lot of people find when they go to play a Blu-ray or a 4K and it has that substance on it, you'll get like disc reading errors, and that's where you'll notice either it won't play the disc, or it'll play the disc, but you'll have where an audio will drop out for a second and you'll have it like sound garbled for just a split second, or you'll run into the case of where it'll actually have pixelation on a certain scene. And you'll think, man, every Blu-ray player I play it on, maybe it has pixelation, maybe only one does, maybe one doesn't. And it's all based on how intense or how strong your Blu-ray laser is that's scanning or reading the data off of this, that will kind of affect the varying quality. And if that substance that is on the disc will vary basically depending on the player when it reads it, what it causes. But there's easy fixes for a lot of this. So over the years, like I said, I've gotten thousands of questions, comments, messages asking the same thing. What I've found is it has to be cleaned off, and it has to be completely cleaned off to prevent that from happening and to keep you from getting these issues of when it plays back and have like pixelation for a second. And that's quite different than when the actual disc is mismastered. This is something that happens where randomly somebody will say, hey, I had one time that maybe it had like a little pixelation one time. And that's not film grain, that's actually something where you'll have pixelation, where the whole screen will kind of get pixelated for a minute. And that happens every once in a while. And a lot of people just don't understand what that's the cause of. Well, it's actually from that film that gets on the disc, and your Blu-ray laser is trying to read through it. And it gets to that part where that film is, and it basically distorts the image just slightly when it's scanning through that layer, and that's what causes that. And sometimes the audio will like glitch out for a second. That's what that'll be. So every disc I always get, first thing I do is I take it out and I clean it. Now there's specific things I've learned over the years. I used to have these cleaners where they were disc cleaners you'd buy and you'd pay a bunch of money for them. You'd put the disc down in it, and then you'd basically put some gel or some spray on it, and then the disc thing would go around. What I found with those was over time, they would actually put micro scratches throughout it and basically put a swirl pattern all the way around the discs, which I did not like at all, and actually would cause other playback issues later on, the more you did it or the more you tried to clean the disc. So I don't use any of those anymore, and this is where it's a big money-saving thing. These are hidden things that I've learned over the years that work really well, but save you a ton of money. Now, one of the #1 things that I used and have learned over the years is the best thing to use is actually these little cloths. Now, I will have these linked down in the description section below and as a pinned comment in the comment section. All the stuff I'm going to talk about today will be listed down there. That way you get the exact things that I'm using that I have proven and tested over thousands and thousands of Blu-rays, DVDs, and 4Ks that I've used them on that have actually worked. Now, there's 2 different types of claws that I'm going to get into here that I use, that as I said, I'll have linked down below. And these ones work amazing. And it's pretty simple and pretty inexpensive. You don't have to spend $30, $40 for one of those disc cleaning kits or special spray. To be honest with you, all I simply do, I start off with the disc. Now I simply get out my special spray, and I first put this on the disc. Once you get a good layer of it on there, then you simply take your cloth, you fold it over your fingers like this, and you go in a circular motion around the disc. Very lightly, just going in a circular motion lightly around the disc, covering all areas of the disc with your finger in the middle of the disc, holding the side of it so that way your fingerprints aren't on the disc. And you do that. Apply more of your special spray if it's a little thicker of a coating that's on it, and then you wipe it off. And you'll notice your disc comes out perfectly shiny and clean. Now that special spray is completely free. You don't have to pay anything for it. Now you don't want to spit on your disc. That's where you'll get things that are coming from your mouth, whether you have food in it or whatever the case is. But it's simply high on your disc, putting a little bit of moisture, and it's clean moisture, and then using your cloth to just go in a circular motion only around the disc. Now, as you probably noticed, I started off with these blue ones, which I will have linked down below. These blue ones are a little bit finer of a cloth. They're very fine claws that are used for like cleaning eyeglasses. There's a specific ones that I use, and I buy the same ones every year, and I've been using these for years and years and years. Now, I buy them in a pack that basically lasts me about 4 to 5 years before they kind of wear down and then I have to buy a new one. But during that time, what I do with these claws is I actually have a little bit of Woolite, and I'll post that down below as well. What that's for is, that simply is basically soft detergent. It's made for washing these very gently, not in your washing machine. You don't want to wash these claws in your washing machine. So a way to save money is, instead of spending anywhere between $10 to $12 every year or so to buy new claws, if you buy one of those Woolite, and I posted it down below, one of those little Woolite bottles that has so much of this soft detergent, it's made to be very gentle on these claws and to get rid of all of the residue that builds up on these. You fill your sink in your bathroom, make sure it's clean of toothpaste first. Anything that's in your sink, clean that out first. Then you fill your sink with hot water. You put that Woolite in as it's filling, just a couple of drops so it gets bubbly and sudsy in there. Dump all your claws. So I dump all my claws in there. So I've got, like I said, several of the blue ones and then one of the gray ones, which I'll get to the gray one here in a minute. You dump these in there, use your hands, wash them around, get them rinsed off. Then you drain the water out, you rinse them off, and then you just lay them somewhere basically that's clean to just dry. Once they dry, they're all good, you fold them up, and I use a little Ziploc baggie. I put them in a little Ziploc baggie to store them. That way they don't get basically dust or sand on them, which then could scratch basically your disc easily. So that's how I store them, is just in a Ziploc bag all the time. And as I need to wash them, I transfer them to a different Ziploc bag. One's the clean ones, one's the dirty ones. Once they get full, Then I go wash them by hand again. So probably I'd say once about every 4 to 5 months, I have to wash the cloths up. And it saves a ton of money instead of just replacing them. Because that residue that builds up on these discs, basically as you buy new Blu-rays, buy new 4Ks, DVDs, you'll notice that you get a lot of that residue on them. And it comes from those cases and weather and the plastic getting dirty, and it kind of builds up on them. So you will notice they'll get dirty over time. Instead of just buying new ones, basically you just wash them out. And that Woolite's pretty darn cheap. And it'll last you a long time instead of constantly having to replace these. Now, probably about every 4 to 5 years, you will have to buy new cloths because they do wear down. But it saves you a ton of money over those 4 to 5 years. And you get all your discs looking beautiful and without scratching them. Now, what's unique about the difference between these cloths? I use the blue ones first. And that's if it's something light that's on it. Now, sometimes you will get some of that residue that's been built up on these discs for a while. And I don't know if it's because of where they're made in Mexico or other countries, wherever the case that they're made, but that residue sometimes can be pretty bad. And sometimes you'll get a disc where somebody's fingerprints are on it really bad, and they had food on them or something, and when they put it in, you'll open up a brand new disc, and you'll find somebody's big old fingerprint right on the disc when you go. And an easy way to check to see what residue is on there as well is to just on your disc, just like what I use to clean it. So you basically are just gonna, and then you hold it up to a light, you'll be able to see all of the residue, if there's fingerprints, things like that. And that's why I clean them when I get them. Every disc I get, I automatically clean now, because I've actually found once I clean them every time I get a disc, I really haven't had any of those errors that were just from basically dirt that's on the disc. Even if you think, hey, I don't really see something, when you blow on it with your hot air, it actually will show whatever residue is on there very easily by holding it up to a light and letting the light shine on it. After you've done that, you'll see all the residue that maybe you couldn't see initially on the disc. So that's a little hidden tip that your eyes might not pick it up, but once you blow on it and then you hold it up to the light where the light's reflecting on it, you'll be able to clearly see all of that. And that's where you'll realize a lot of those errors that you're maybe running into when you go to play a disc and it gets little glitches on it. A lot of it has to do with simply because your disc arrived and it was dirty. If you enjoy these little tips and hints and tricks and all this content I create for all of you to watch here on my YouTube channel, make sure to go down there and give a super thanks down below. That's how that supports this YouTube channel, how I keep going out and creating all these videos and spending all this time to create all this content for all of you to watch and enjoy. It's just like giving a tip. So if each one of you, when you watch these videos, even if you can only give $1, that does help out and helps me to keep providing all of this content to you. The only way I can keep creating all these videos is through the support of all of you, my viewers and subscribers. So if you enjoy all of these and you love this content that I create for all of you, make sure to go down and give a super thanks down below. I also mentioned that down below I've posted all of the links for everything that I'm talking about. For the soap, for the detergent, for the cloths, everything exactly that I've tested and used for the last 35 years, I've linked down in the description section below and as a pinned comment. So if you're gonna pick up any of this, make sure to go down and click through one of those links. It takes you straight out to Amazon, makes it nice and easy for all of you. Also, don't forget, give this video a like, hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. That way you never miss out on any of this content. Now let's say on your disc, you have a little bit more film that you've used your blue cloth. So you bought the blue cloths, you used the blue cloth, it didn't quite get rid of it. The reason I posted down there the Zeiss cloths, or Zeiss, however you say them, but there's the little logo down there. I posted the exact cloths I have. There's 2 different cloths that I use and there's a reason for it. Sometimes you will get a film on there that it's pretty darn intense on there, and you'll use that blue cloth, which is very, very soft and very, very light, and it doesn't really get through it and doesn't really take it off. The reason why there's 2 different types of cloths down there that you need to have. These Zeiss ones are just slightly different. Now, they're not going to scratch it ever or damage it. But what they are is they just have a little bit more of a basically deep pocket in them that basically gets a little bit more depth to that cleaning. Now, the reason I don't just use these instead of using the blue ones at all is simply because these ones are only used for that deeper area. And what you do is the same thing. You use your special liquid, you hot on it, and then you do the same thing and you go in a circle just lightly around it. Remember, you don't want to push too hard, you just go lightly around it. And you just do it a couple of times. It will take off the remaining, basically, if there's just a little bit left over of it. The only reason I don't use these as much or all of the time, and I only use these for something that's basically more ingrained in that disc, something that's maybe a little deeper or has a little bit more junk that's kind of gathered on that disc that's not coming off as easily with these, is because you're never intended to push really hard on your discs. So if you were to use these blue ones and push really, really hard, anything that you ever use that you're gonna push super hard on, you might get micro scratches throughout it, which you wanna prevent, because when we buy all of these discs, a lot of us are buying them because we've spent our hard-earned money to save money to be able to watch these over and over again instead of having to rent them or pay for all these digital services that charge you every time you watch them or charge you monthly. So you want your discs to last a really long time and to be able to keep them for years and years, whether it's your kids watching them, you watching them, your wife watching them, whatever the case is. So I always try to do things that are going to retain this disc in the best quality it can be without damaging it. Well, these ones have just a little bit more structure to the cloth that will get out that deeper, but I don't like to use these if I don't have to. They don't add any scratches. There's no scratches on it, and it doesn't, but if you use this too much, in my opinion, I feel like there might be a chance of getting a scratch more on it or micro scratches because it is a little bit more of a deeper, like firmer cloth just slightly. But I can tell you, just like what I did here, I've wiped this disc probably 6 times sitting here making this video just with this cloth. It hasn't scratched it, there's no micro scratches on it, but I'm just very cautious with it. So that's why I use 2 different claws. This is simply if there's something major that you can't get out with the blue claws, then I switch to these gray claws, and that's when I use it just simply to get out that basically deeper, whatever it is, residue or fingerprint on it. So that's kind of a hidden trick, hidden tidbit of why I use 2 different types of claws. Now that's only talking about part of your issue here, because here's why. If you don't clean out your case from that residue, when you put your disc back in here, you see how the disc pushes against the back side of the case? You're gonna get some of that residue back on the disc after you clean it. So there's a key thing behind it. That residue needs to be wiped off from the inside of the case. If you wanna leave it on the outside, that's up to you. But basically what I do is for the case itself, I take the disc out. Once the disc is out, you can take your cover art off as well if you wanna make sure that you don't get that damp. I get a damp cloth, and I wipe that damp cloth in here, and I just use something that's clean, like a face cloth, something like that, just something very easy. Do not use these claws in it. And I will tell you this much, because of how much residue a lot of the times is in these cases, if you use these claws to wipe all that residue out, you're gonna go through one of these claws every single time you get a case, and you won't be able to use it for the disc next time. And you're gonna be washing these things constantly. So a little tip there is, only use these claws for your discs. You also don't wanna pick up something that might be in your case, whether a piece of plastic broke off, small, something like that, and get it on your claws and then scratch your discs. So these claws need to only be used for the discs themselves. That's why I keep them separate in a baggie. So for this, I just get like a face cloth. Get it damp, you just wipe it out on the inside, you let it dry completely, and you'll notice that it'll wipe all that residue off of this case completely. And usually I don't notice the residue coming back that much where I live. I live in a drier climate, and that's something else that I'm gonna touch on here. Wherever you store your DVDs, your Blu-rays, your 4Ks, if you live in a damp climate, you're gonna wanna have some sort of dehumidifier running in wherever you store all of them. This residue does appear faster and more often if you live in an area that's a very damp climate. So keep in mind that if you do store your discs and you notice it coming back more and more often, you might want to get yourself a dehumidifier just to put in that room. Where I live, I don't need it because all my discs stay dry. So once I wipe this off, I don't notice it coming back very often at all, not in years. Now, once you wipe that film off, you can put your disc back in, you close it up, and you go ahead and store this away, and then you'll have a nice clean set that you won't have to worry about a lot of that skipping or issues on that. Now, something else I run into that a lot of people have asked me about is, what do I do when I get a broken case? Well, I will link below the official Blu-ray and 4K Ultra HD replacement cases. Now, this is some of the replacement cases I just got in, and these are the exact cases that come for 4K Ultra HDs. Now, there are some that are single and double. These are all the double ones, and I'll link them all below the official ones so you get the exact ones like what you buy for 4K Ultra HDs. And these hold 2 discs, the exact logo is printed on them. The same for the Blu-ray ones. I just replaced this case because this one arrived broken. That's why I'm showing this one. So in a lot of times, if something arrives broken, I'll try to send it back. But sometimes with boutique labels or something that maybe I bought used or something that I got from somebody that I had to buy from another country, some of those times it's very difficult to get a replacement case. So that is why I buy them and have a stack of these at all times. They're sold in bundles of 5 and 10. I will list those down in the description section below and as a pinned comment down there. I buy these are the official actual 4K cases, and they come with 2 discs in them, and then there's also single disc ones. So the single disc ones are pretty rare, but I buy the double disc ones because that's pretty much what all 4Ks come as nowadays. And I just simply, if something comes broken and I don't want to hassle with trying to get somebody to send me a replacement case, as long as the artwork's okay and the disc isn't damaged, I'll take it out and put it in one of these. Some of you say, hey, I would rather just send it back because it was damaged. That's up to each one of you, but that is a little extra hidden tidbit that a lot of the times time is very valuable to a lot of us, and contacting companies to constantly replace a lot of these, or if something comes because of how bad the mail is and the case itself is damaged, but the artwork and the actual disc is fine. Just like what I did with Mel and Goldie's here, Bird on a Wire, which I really like this film. The disc itself was fine, so I just put it in one of my replacement cases, which was perfectly clean and everything like that, put the disc in there, cleaned the disc, and I was all ready to go. And I didn't have to contact the company to kind of send me another one. But that's up to each one of you, and I kind of take it on a case-by-case basis, because if I get a bunch of stuff in an order that's crushed, I'll contact the company then and I'll have them send a replacement. But if it's something that, let's say I get like 10 Blu-rays in an order, or 5 4Ks in an order, and one of them has like a broken tab off of it, or the top corner of it's broken off, I might just replace the one case and use one of my replacement cases, and then basically keep the rest of them. But that's up to each one of you. But it is nice having replacement cases, because just to let you know, regardless of stuff getting shipped to you, heck, my kids have dropped some of my cases and shattered them. And when they drop on a tile floor or something like that, a lot of the times these plastic cases will break or crack off a big piece of it. And that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I like to keep mine in good condition. So that's why I have replacement cases too. If you've got kids like I do, I've got 3 boys, kind of one of those things that's the common thing that sometimes things just get broken. So I like to have replacements to be able to fix it myself, so that way it doesn't bother me, because some of my little pet peeves, kids just don't have the same thing, and that's perfectly fine. Accidents happen. So overall, there's a lot of things about collecting or getting any of these, whether you buy 1 Blu-ray a year, whether you buy 1 4K a year, whether you buy hundreds a year. All of those things that we spend our money on, we do want to keep them in good condition. And that's why I thought this video was a good time to come out with this. I've talked to you guys for years about hundreds and hundreds of these movies that I've done reviews on, TV series, and that's where I wanted to share about what it is and what things about collecting these and getting these in that can help you keep these discs in pristine condition for many years to come, whether it's the cases or the discs themselves. A lot of those errors that you'll find sometimes are simply because your disc needs clean. And that's why automatically every single disc I get in, I automatically clean with the blue cloth first. Then, if the residue doesn't come off, then I switch to the gray cloth. And that's the process I use for everything. Most of the time, the blue cloth will work and get it off, but every once in a while, there are those buggers that are on there that seems like that residue had been sitting on that disc for a long time and it really doesn't want to come off. That's where I use the gray cloth. So that's why I suggest getting both. So that way, if it is something, you don't have to go find something that's going to scratch it, because the last thing you want to do is scratch your disc that you're collecting or that you want to have for many years to come to watch. And that's why we spend the money to collect everything, like you can see behind me. That's why we collect these and love these films, is we want to have them for many, many years to come. There's a lot of liquids out there that are advertised for cleaning discs. I simply have found that they would scratch the disc or cause other residue to appear on the disc. That's why I don't suggest anything other than the special liquid I talked about at the beginning. So that liquid's free, and that's why I use that, and it is the best way because it doesn't add a ton of moisture to it, just enough to get the residue off without adding it to the disc or the artwork. And that is the best way in 35 years of collecting to clean those discs. I hope you've really enjoyed this. Let me know if this is something that really helped you out and was exciting and helped you find a way to keep your collection in the best condition possible. Make sure to go down there, and if you enjoyed this content, give a super thanks down below, even if it's only $1. That does help out this YouTube channel and helps with the support from all of you. The only way I can keep doing this is with all of your support. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a like. Click that subscribe button and that bell notification. And I hope all of you enjoyed me sharing these special tips, hints, and tricks with all of you that I've learned over 35 years of collecting. I hope all of you have a blessed day, and I've always got something new, entertaining, or helpful tips coming out very soon.